Great. Hey, well, welcome everyone. It's great to have everyone back. If you've attended our last Global Town Hall, and for those of you that are attending this for the first time, you're going to experience, I think, a really informative discussion on kind of the gig economy and gig work, as well as a little bit of fun. We always at SMA on our town halls always like to have a little bit of fun. So, the focus on the theme of today's town hall is around how to thrive in the gig economy. It's really from the perspective of professionals and the workers. So the future of work and what a job is actually, it's been rapidly being redefined as a hybrid workplace. So some really recent research just done at Harvard as part of their Future of Work initiative showed that over 90% of business leaders viewed platforms like SMA's taught as critical to their competitive advantage. This was based on over 650 companies, and the vast majority of them actually had revenues well over $500 million. So it's a serious topic. It's definitely a topic which, major Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies are actually kind of right now getting their arms around. So in this series of discussions, we will explore how companies can make the most of talent in the gig economy. How can individuals define a successful career with the uncertainty and unique challenges of project-based work? At SMA, we've been doing this since 1982, actually, so the notion of gig is not new for us. In our last Global Town Hall, we discussed the seminal Drucker article on managing oneself. It was published in 1999. And it was really a unique article, and it relates very directly to kind of, one of those elements of how to be successful if you're in the gig economy as a professional. Today, we're going to discuss the unique challenges of creating a successful career as an independent professional. We have two special guests with us today. We welcome back Dr. Bernie Jaworski, the Peter F. Drucker Chair of Claremont Graduate University. We also have Kathy Kristof. Kathy is the editor of sidehustle.com and she's a regularly featured columnist in the LA Times on gig work. So please use the chat window for any questions or comments you would like to make, and we will make this interactive. But just use the chat window. We have folks who are monitoring the chat window, and we'll get to everyone's questions. We have plenty of time carved out for this. So we welcome Kathy and Bernie. And hello, Bernie, and do we see Kathy as well? Hi, Bernie.
Good morning, AJ. Good to be here.
Great, thanks for coming back to join us. And Kathy, there you are.
Hi.
Hello, hey, thank you for joining us, Kathy. So why don't I start by just asking Kathy you a question. You really bring a unique perspective as a freelance reporter for most of your career. And I think it was through your frustration with the lack of good resources or platforms that prompted you to actually write your column and perhaps create sidehustle.com. Can you just kind of talk to us a little bit about that? And also, we're really interested in kind of hearing you as being a freelance reporter, what was your most significant challenge?
Oh, wow. The most significant challenge for any freelancer is time. The fact is finding jobs takes a lot of time, and anytime you spend finding jobs, sending out your resume, whatever is time that's taken away from actually earning money. And so that one of the reasons why I started freelancers really didn't have the time to read the terms and conditions, do thorough research on the companies that they were working for. And in many cases, this caused horror stories, situations where people were never paid. The company actually, in some cases, reserved the right to abscond with their earnings after the fact. Viewing this employment contract very much like a credit card agreement. And so, and then there were great companies also to work for. And so having worked for many of those great companies myself, I thought it would be nice if people could find them.
It's really unfortunate in terms of the negative experiences that you learned about. And also, obviously, there's great companies as well. And so, I mean, I think you hit it spot on, right? As a freelancer and you're doing project-based work, you're doing the work while you're also kind of having to find your next gig, so to speak, right? And so Kathy, I think your column actually, it's a great column. I encourage everyone to read it. It's in the Sunday Los Angeles Times. I think it may be syndicated, but you review lots of different and interesting platforms. I think your most recent article is actually on platforms to do dirty work, what you call dirty work. Can you just talk to us a little bit about that? I thought that was a fascinating article.
Yeah, well, every week we focus on something. Our stories all originate on sidehustle.com and then they go out to syndicate. But yeah, this was basically, we're always looking for people who have kind of interesting, different takes on working in the gig economy. In this case, we ran across all these people who are making $75 to $100 an hour cleaning or doing yard work, or like just a variety of deals. And of course, your housekeeper doesn't earn that kind of wage. But if you're hiring somebody to clean your chimney or clean your baby equipment and sanitize it, or like all of these people actually found a niche in that, a big category to make a kind of extraordinary amounts of money for work that does not require a college degree, doesn't really require a lot of prior experience, just a little bit of training.
Fantastic. That's actually pretty good money for doing dirty work if you don't mind gardening or cleaning out someone's attic, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure folks will want to know exactly how they can get connected with you so they can get those platforms a bit later. So we can do that with the chat window. Let me, Bernie, so it's great to have you back. The Drucker, the Peter Drucker perspective always gives a really interesting take on things. And, can you just talk a little bit about kind of what Peter F. Drucker's philosophy would say in terms of today's environment about gig work?
So I like the idea that I'm channeling Peter Drucker as the idea here. But if I did channel Drucker, he would say self-control is the most powerful form of control, meaning the worker is the one that's closest to the problem, should take responsibility for thinking about the objectives and how it is that their objectives fit the overall mission of the project. And this is in sharp contrast to command and control or bureaucratic types of controls. And my argument would be the gig economy, and quite frankly, the walled garden of SMA is perfectly suited for self-control. The key is that every individual has to know the fundamental mission, purpose, goals of the project. Once individuals know that, they can then have a conversation with those as part of the team to say, here's what I'm going to do to contribute to that overall mission or goal. So and the second part of that is the information needs to be distributed to that individual. The only way I can monitor myself and keep myself on course is I need information flows coming back to me, allow me then to make corrections along the way. So I think that's kind of critical. One other point, a broader point, is that it was Drucker who coined the phrase knowledge worker. And in fact, this is really a knowledge economy. That's what we're talking about. Knowledge, for Drucker, knowledge is king. Knowledge trumps everything else that's going on. So he actually had a belief that you would no longer see, boss, superiors, and subordinates, but you'd see kind of juniors and seniors. You'd see a world where if knowledge is really the leveling kind of issue here, then the fundamental issue to gain career advancement is to gain knowledge and to deploy that knowledge. So I think that'd be Drucker's kind of framing of the gig economy.
Wow. So companies are going to have to rethink their traditional command and control approach to managing talent. I think, you mentioned both clarity and alignment in terms of the actual task at hand. And so that actually, I think the way we think about it is about transparency. To get alignment and clarity, you really need to be 100% transparent.
Actually, I think that's what the Todd Platt, speaking of Todd's birthday, that's what Todd does. Todd makes it transparent to both individuals inside of SMA to see what's going on, but also to clients and others. And so there's an enormous advantage to that transparency. And
yeah, that was a big change we had to kind of rethink ourselves after having operated for such a long time. We finally realized that transparency was actually a very good thing for everyone.
Yeah.
So, we're just kind of, hopefully, we're all keeping our fingers crossed. We're at the tail end of the COVID pandemic. Would love to hear from both of you about kind of how you think the pandemic has changed how we think about work, and open up your crystal ball, take a look at your crystal ball, and just let us know what you think the future will hold for us. So,
Kathy, do you want to go first? Do you want me to shoot at it, or how do you want to?
Why don't you go first, and I'll wrap in.
I think there are three forces at work here. Number one is place does not matter as much, if at all. Whereas place used to be the big unit of analysis for how we conducted work. The second is time has diffused. The workday is now a period of chunks that unfold from 6 a.m. till midnight, and that's true of everybody. So time, the meaning of time, and what does it mean to manage time? If time's the most precious asset that we all have, how do we manage it in a workflow day that's 18 hours, of which maybe you're working 9 of those, but it's just a different way to conceive of time. Mm-hmm. And the third is, there's no question about it, that, you know, people are always worried about work-life balance. Work-life integration is really the interesting issue. You know, it's front and center. Work-life balance was interesting when you used to go to, quote, something called work and a location. Work-life balance when you're migrating around your house to go from your study to your kitchen to, you know, to outdoors. It's a completely different phenomenon, you know, particularly with everybody at home. So I think we're going to see those 3 forces play out over the next 5 to 10 years: place, time, and balance. I think
it's really a cool perspective, Bernie. I think, you know, we all have this image of the scales of justice in terms of work-life balance as we used to think about it, right? And, you know, many of us who used to be and still are in consulting, you know, the scales of justice weigh far too heavily on the work side. Yeah. But now actually that's the wrong way to think about it conceptually. It sounds like it's really about how do you best integrate the two.
Yes, I think that's right.
That's really interesting. Kathy, how about your thoughts?
Well, I think that actually the pandemic has been very helpful in some ways because it's forced both companies and individuals to think a little bit differently about working from home and about communicating more effectively, being self-motivated. You know, when I started working from home 30 years ago, nobody was doing it. And one of the problems was that the people who did do it thought working from home meant taking the day off. And of course, that's not the case, right? And so only a handful of people who were really self-motivated were able to make working from home work. So what you're finding now is because everybody's working from home, they have to work from home. It's no longer a day off. They're actually getting stuff done. And in many cases, companies are finding that they are more productive when their employees are at home. And having done it myself for all these years, I know that there are fewer distractions. The distractions you do have are distractions that are actually much more amenable to that work-life balance, because the people you're spending your coffee break with are your children, you know, and you know, and people who are really precious to you. In my case, sometimes it's my mom or dad, and that is great because you're really focusing in on the things that matter.
That's fantastic. I love you brought up the kind of old traditional view, where if someone, you know, comes to you and you're the person's boss and says, well, I'm going to work from home today, you know, your first thought is, well, why don't you just take the day off instead of saying you're going to work from home? You know, we found, and we were just on a conversation earlier this morning with a client, and we were having a conversation around how much more productive you just simply are when you're working from home if you have the right environment at home, you know, where you actually can have some quiet space to yourself to actually work from home. And I know a lot of folks don't have that, but yeah, we've discovered since we've been, you know, essentially, we've always kind of a little bit been of a virtual company, but since March 17th, we've been tracking the numbers really closely, and it looks like almost by and large, it's just consistently, our folks have been a lot more productive in the work that they do for our clients.
Yeah, well, you know, one of the things that you don't really pay attention to when you're going into an office is the amount of time that is spent on commuting, primping, going to lunch, I mean, like there's a huge amount of wasted time in your average workday when you're going into an office. And if you're in an ideal setting, if you actually set your life up to be efficient at home, you save hours in your day. And you can use those both for your office and for your home And that's awesome. It's really wonderful to feel like, oh, I've got an extra hour or an extra 2 hours, and I'm going to spend one adding to my workday because I get more done that way. I like it. And spend another hour just, spending. I used to put my kids on my calendar and, to take them to the park, and I wrote it in as lunch hour. Right. And so I would ask my kids every day, okay, what do you want to do for lunch hour? And we would pick an activity. And I think that too, though, is really important for that work-life balance, because people tend to be on one side or the other of this, where you're really competitive at work or you really love being at home. And so you tend to get the balance goes off one side or the other. And I think you have to, if you're like me, I was always a really competitive worker bee. And so I had to put my kids on my calendar, because if I didn't, I would neglect them. And that's not good mom skills. And so, and I think other people are, have to do the other, the opposite, like, remind themselves, no, you got to work an 8-hour day. That's what your employer is expecting of you. So do it. And so that I had a friend who worked from home in the early days, and she said, I just could never do it. Didn't you always want to break off to bake cookies? And I'm like, no, not even one time. Yeah, never do laundry. That's why I work, is so I can hire somebody to do that for me.
So Kathy, it sounds like if you were to make a single recommendation to the folks on this call to be a bit more successful as they do work from home, whether it's project-based or not, it sounds like it would be kind of self-discipline and planning. Is that right?
Yeah, you have to set up your environment to work. You really need dedicated space. It shouldn't be the dining room table where everybody who walks by is going to distract you. You should be able to close the door. And I say that on both sides of this. You should be able to cut off work at the end of your workday. And so if your office line is ringing, you need to learn to ignore it, because otherwise your office will just take up your entire day. And I know this is particularly difficult for people who are using their cell phones all day. And it's, that's a work call, like you got to ignore it. And because otherwise it really does. I mean, I know people are taking work calls at 11 o'clock at night and midnight. And it's like, you actually need those breaks from work to be productive the next day. So yes, everybody can be in a stretch where the amount of work just exceeds a normal workday.
Yeah.
But that should be temporary. If that is your daily routine, you're going to lose yourself, and you're actually going to become less productive over time.
Interesting. Bernie, do you have, before we get to kind of questions, and there's a lot of questions here I see in the chat window, we can also have folks unmute themselves in a second. Would you have a couple of recommendations for folks in terms of how to think about how to be a bit more productive?
Let me give a recommendation to you, AJ.
Stop calling our associates and employees at 11 p.m. at night. I got that one.
That I can't help with you with. But here's a Drucker quote from 1954. It's, the more management creates economic conditions or changes them, rather than passively adapts to them, the more it manages the business. So my advice is, so in other words, Porter would say, here's the industry 5 forces, that's what you got, take it for granted. What Drucker is saying is you manage those. You manage the economic forces, the industry forces that shape your business. And so my argument, my advocacy actually for SMA is go faster now. You're ahead. You've got the Todd platform in place, go fast. Because you want to do the creative destruction. You want to leave folks behind in the dust. And so my argument would be, when industries are in turmoil and environments are in turmoil, you want to take a strong point of view around what you think is happening and then go fast, because other people are going to be confused, they're going to be in turmoil. And so this is a perfect situation to begin to manage the industry structure which you compete. So that would be my general advice. For SMA in particular, Todd, go as fast as you possibly can to drive, so people are following in your wake as opposed to kind of trying to catch up with you. That would be my advice.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Let's go to a couple of questions. Here's a super interesting question, Bernie, for you, since you referenced the concept of knowledge worker. What if someone doesn't want to be a knowledge worker?
Yeah.
Is there such an individual in today's workforce?
Yeah. In fact, the concern Drucker had was, and think about Silicon Valley, is there's two types of workforce up in Silicon Valley. There's the knowledge worker workforce that largely works in the tech sector. And then there's a service and support industry that supports them. And that industry is actually under enormous duress for lots of different reasons, right? So unfortunately, the answer to the question would be, as society evolves, more and more knowledge work is becoming the center of gravity for knowledge work. And so the idea that someone wants to opt out of knowledge work is problematic, for that individual. So I'd be counseling them and say, listen, you want to lean in. And knowledge work could be, related to different domains. So it doesn't have to just be in the classical tech sector. It could be knowledge work in the service sector around reinvention of how it is that we do various services and so forth. But I think knowledge is going to be the key. So I would be advocating for thinking about job redesign, company redesign around kind of knowledge as the critical asset, as opposed to saying, maybe I don't want to kind of go the knowledge route. That would be my knee-jerk reaction at this point.
So even in the service industry, right, when you don't traditionally think of that as knowledge workers, I think you're suggesting that in fact, technology is moving so rapidly that in fact it is blending with kind of the original the concept of what a knowledge worker is. Did I get that right?
It's certainly happening all around us.
Yeah.
Dry cleaners used to be at a physical location. Now, because of COVID, they're driving the stuff. They're dropping stuff off, or they're doing other stuff. So they're adjusting, right, to what the model is of what that service economy is. Restaurants are adjusting. Other stores are adjusting, right? So there's a force at work here where, because of the pandemic, has accelerated certain things and forced weaknesses of businesses to be disclosed. And so you have to kind of, there's going to be winners and losers. And my argument would be you're going to want to use technology and knowledge to accelerate where that's going, even in a small business.
Interesting.
I think you actually have to recognize that in this world, you are your brand. And so you actually have to think a little bit about what your brand is and be extraordinary at it. You're not going to be, a search engine. You're going to be Google. You're not going to be, you have to be the very best. You're the Tesla of the electric cars. You are going to be not measured by the company you work for, but by the job you do specifically. So you personally need to have a mission statement. What do I do? And why do I do it? And you have to niche very closely, instead of like the dirty jobs that we talked about. Instead of saying, oh yeah, I clean. No, I sanitize baby equipment. And when you get it, it's going to be hypoallergenic and it's going to be immaculate. And you're going to feel like you just got it from the store, only better. And you need to be extraordinary at what you do in this world, because the competition is coming worldwide. The fact that we've gotten rid of offices means that you're not competing with the people in LA or in Berlin. You're competing with people all over the world. And so you have to be able to stand out in a crowd of billions of human beings. And part of that is niching, so that you really do something very specific that cannot be replicated by everyone. And part of it is doing it so well that people want to call you personally. It's your brand.
Yeah, I love those concepts. I think a lot of folks in the past have written about how to be an expert, right? How many hours it takes to be an expert. But at the end of the day, it's really, I think, about self-awareness and this aspiration to be exceptional at whatever you do. And we all have that potential in us. So there's another question. Yeah. Oh, I love this one.
It takes more time.
Yeah. And self-awareness, I think, right? I mean, you got to focus on who you are, who you want to be, in order to actually create that brand around yourself. So here's a really interesting question. We're almost now 12 months into the start of the COVID pandemic in terms of how we've all had to essentially get locked down. I know that, almost every company has to be feeling it, and every individual is feeling it. There's a level of fatigue associated with it. Do you have any comments or suggestions about how we can kind of break ourselves out of this kind of, idea that we're all a bit fatigued now after 12 months of wearing masks and staying at home and working differently?
Yeah, that's a tough. Go ahead, Kathy.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, acknowledge the fatigue and recognize that it's not unique, and give yourself a break, give yourself a pat on the back, give yourself a vacation, like even if it's just, okay, I'm just going to go, and we're in LA. So you can go and sit by the pool for an afternoon and just say, I earned this. Be kind to yourself. I see people being so tired and so cranky, and I think you also have to kind of give them a break, because I was looking around and it's like it was dealing with neighbors who were normally really lovely people and suddenly just snarky and like tough. And I thought, it's a tough pandemic. You just just give them a little bit of space, a little, realize that it's tough on everybody, and be kind. But sorry, Bernie, go ahead.
No. I think my advice would go back to the time issue. And what Drucker argued in The Effective Executive is that critically, you can't do anything as an executive unless you get control of your time. So step one is get control of the time. Step two is small number of priorities. Drucker is a big advocate to have 1 or 2 priorities, not 27. So step two is priorities. And step three is allocate large chunks of time. So what I'm going to argue for is not just in work, but in play or in family. You got to allocate large chunks of time. So this notion of, 3 minutes for dinner, 5 minutes for the dog walk, 8 minutes for this, 12 minutes for that, that's not going to work. So this gets back at what does it mean to take time off? And the answer is 4 hours. You're going to go out and sit by the pool in an afternoon for 4 hours because you're going to be working at night, or things are going to happen over the weekend. So it's not a big deal. In this world where time blends together, you got to get large chunks, and we can all determine what a large chunk is. But I think trying to take time off, or you take a walk around the block and that's your time off for the day, or you spend a little bit of time with the kids doing homework, that's not large chunks. So think about large chunks of time over the course of the week and ask yourself, am I getting these large chunks on work, life, and play, right? And obviously you need to take care of your health, along the way here. So, but all of those require large chunks, not small chunks. And so that's the message for today.
It's really interesting, and I think it kind of, there's a difference between fatigue and burnout, but I think your suggestions also directly deal with avoiding the burnout that could occur as well, right? So we have an interesting comment from one of our folks on that it's a really nice comment that working from home is much more productive, and we've all experienced this. Just roll right out of bed, turn on your laptop, and no need to get ready for work. No travel time needed. Let's see. Everyone's talked about the commute. I'm just trying to scroll through. Thank you for everyone for putting in your comments and suggestions. Love it. I'm just trying to, and others here at SMA, if you want to help me kind of get to some of the questions that would be pertinent for everyone, just unmute yourself and just go ahead and repeat the question. Here's one. Do you think that team management and stakeholder management on a project suffers from a lack of in-person, face-to-face interaction? That's a really important question, because as we're working from home, you lose that social connectivity with each other.
It's a great question. Well, my advice would be, if I'm running a team and I've got 10 people in the team, let's just make up a number. What I'm finding is that you need to allocate time to each of those individuals and to each module there, and then the overall team. So there needs to be time allocated to feel a deeper connection around what is someone trying to achieve in this particular project, what are they trying to do, what else is going on in their life. You got to get that personal connection. So if the team is 10, working all the time in units of 10, never going to get there. You got to sit down and kind of do 1-to-1 stuff, 1-to-3 stuff, to this 3 is working different than these 4. You got to spend a lot of time making sure there's a connection there. So it does require more time, but it can be done. I don't think we're saying there's a fundamental problem here. It can be, but it has to be done differently. It has to be done in more smaller chunks of combining people or individuals as opposed to the way we would traditionally do it.
AJ,
Kathy?
there's
Go
also
ahead.
been a question, around, the working from home and where initially it's more productive and then it's less productive. It might be interesting to talk about some of the things that we've done to, create connectivity among the team.
I'm not sure who this is going to. I think.
Oh, I'm
one
sorry,
of the,
AJ. I was actually to AJ.
Oh, so go ahead.
I'm sorry. So, Jacque, can you repeat that question again?
Yeah. So there's a question in the chat about initially working remotely being more productive and then becoming less productive, or people becoming isolated. And I think it might be interesting to share some of the things that we've done
yeah.
at SMA around that.
Yeah, well, I think we've done some unusual things for sure. And I think at the core, though, we've tried to replicate as much as possible the in-person physical presence that we all used to have by coming into the office, actually using IT, using Teams. And so everybody in our firm with the staff and management, basically when they start their workday, they log into essentially what we call an all-day Teams meeting. And what we do is we ask everyone to essentially mute your microphone, but turn your volume to about 20% on your laptop. And so if I want to say, for example, and this is what I call the hey you factor. Hey, Jacque, do you have 2 minutes? I have an issue I want to discuss with you. Jacque can hear it without it being particularly distracting to anybody else. And Jacque could say, yeah, just give me a call in 5 minutes. And what we found to be really interesting about that is, as simple as this sounds, it really is a barrier. Otherwise, I would have had to kind of, let me give Jacque a call now, right? You pick up your phone, you find the phone number, you call, right? Jacque may or may not be there, but just those simple steps, what may seem to be simple steps, actually are a barrier to communications. And so we found this, everybody being on Teams, and folks can, they'll put the chat window, hey, I'm going to take off for a jog, or I'm going to do lunch, or I need a little bit of work-life balance right now. I think that's been at the core, Jacque. That's been, I think, fundamentally helpful for all of us to know that we're all kind of still present, right?
Exactly.
And just hey you away, if I could say that. And then also separately, we've done a lot of things in terms of hiring in our town halls and staff meetings. We've hired comedians, magicians, dancers, singers, you name it, tennis pros, golf pros, just to give us a little bit of a reason to smile every day. I think that's also been helpful for all of us.
There was also a request in the chat for Bernie to put Drucker's quote into the chat.
I can do that. And I will do that in the next few minutes when we transition at this point. So I'll step in and look at chat and other stuff going on, but I'll put the quote directly in.
Okay. I think we have time just for a couple more questions. If anyone wants to unmute themselves, please just go ahead and do that and just ask the question live. I will try to scroll through the chat window as well to see if there are things here. Someone made a comment, and it's certainly true. Being extraordinary can be very exhausting. Hopefully it can also be re-energizing.
Yeah, I think you just have to choose what you're doing carefully, because everybody is extraordinary at something. And so just make sure that you're choosing what you can be extraordinary at. And then actually it's not exhausting, it's actually energizing because you're having fun at it. It's your passion. So, I mean, following that passion, I think, is pivotally important no matter what you do.
Indeed. And speaking of that and passion and your unique brand, here's a great quote here from Ken Schmidt of Harley-Davidson. Everyone knows Harley-Davidson's brand, right? It's international. You have to make your own noise. Wow. Follow your passion. It's rewarding, not exhausting. That's like goes so hand in hand with Harley-Davidson, doesn't it? You have to make your own noise.
Great.
That's fantastic. All right, then. I know, Bernie, we've asked if you can stay on. We're going to be doing a celebration on Todd. And Kathy, you're more than welcome to stay on as well. We're going to have a little bit of fun here coming up. And our next segment is actually going to be one of the things that has been one of the most popular things that we've done since the start of the pandemic, which is our Art Talk. So it's our Art Talk number 40. And so when I was at a theater, this was a number of years ago, there was a play titled Red. And I was actually, I think, in the first row, and I was actually spattered with red paint all over my clothes. I don't recall if there was a footnote in the playbill about about possible damage to my clothes, but the play was actually about Mark Rothko and his life, an incredibly intense artist. And speaking of brand, he had a really unique brand and a message in his art. And it's kind of interesting. We SMA, we constantly communicate through our presentations to clients. Through PowerPoint decks and other things. And, we've been, I think, improving our ability, our own unique brand particularly in terms of how it relates to Todd. So this would actually be a good day for modern art. And so I want to introduce you to an artist in her own right, Sarah Kane, who will talk to us about Mark Rothko and Art Talk number 40.
Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. So Mark Rothko, who was actually born Marcus Rothkowitz, was an American painter working in the 1930s through the 1960s. And he was born in what is now Latvia in 1903, but fled Jewish persecution with his family and settled in Portland, Oregon. He excelled in high school and ended up attending Yale University, studying liberal arts and science, among which he studied philosophy, psychology, engineering, biology, so many different topics. He really loved to learn and broaden his perspective on the world. But ultimately, art is where his attention was more focused. And he dropped out of Yale in 1923 before graduating and moved to New York City, the burgeoning center of the American artistic universe. So while in New York, Rothko took a class at the Art Students League with a teacher named Max Weber. And this would turn out to be Rothko's only real artistic training. Weber was one of the only teachers that embraced European modernism at the time. So Rothko was really drawn to him, and Weber ended up having a profound influence on Rothko's works. He encouraged Rothko to work in a more figurative sense rather than literal as, say, realism or impressionism. So while Rothko didn't want to be associated with any particular art movement, he is widely regarded as one of the focal artists of abstract expressionism. Other artists in that category would be, say, Jackson Pollock, Willem de Kooning. And so this post-World War II movement is usually categorized with gestural strokes or markings, as we will see in Rothko's more mature period of his career. So let's take a look at some of his work. So this painting is called Entrance to Subway, done in 1938, and was one of Rothko's earlier pieces, and is part of a larger series of paintings called the Subway series. It is before he found his signature style of color field painting, which we'll get into in a moment. And so I mentioned before that abstract expressionism is more gestural strokes on a canvas, but as you can see, this painting is still very recognizable as a subway scene. It's not entirely abstract, but maybe more representative or reflective of the times. And this painting represents the isolation and loneliness of the Great Depression. This was, remember, done in 1938. And the National Gallery of Art says that, quote, windows, portals, and walls serve as structural and expressive devices of confinement. Rothko shows the subway as a measured yet eccentric place. So this is called White Center, painted in 1950. And this style of painting, called color field, is synonymous with Rothko's works. This became his signature style, and White Center was one of his first paintings in this style. The painting is divided up into these kind of horizontal bands of color, using either complementary or contrast colors. Can everyone hear me? I'm hearing a bit of an echo. Okay, so the painting is divided up into these horizontal bands of color, using either these complementary or contrasting colors to evoke a certain response. So here he uses these washes of color to evoke spiritual or intellectual responses. And the colors in this painting evoke a sense of warmth, brightness, happiness. He really wanted to focus on the emotional response that these paintings give to the viewer. And so with these color field paintings, he wanted to remove all obstacles between the painter, the painting, and the viewer, and he just wanted the color to envelop the viewer. Rothko was very particular about who he sold his art to, and it said that he would not sell his art to someone who didn't have the quote unquote correct reaction, whatever that meant. But this painting was sold to the royal family of Qatar for over $72 million, making it one of the most expensive post-war paintings ever sold. So as you can see by that, Rothko was really particular with the projects that he took on and who he sold his art to. He was could be very finicky sometimes, and he really stood up for his beliefs to the point of actually self-sabotage. For example, he protested an award being given to him by the Guggenheim Foundation because he felt that art should not be competitive. But in 1965, he was commissioned by John and Dominique de Menil to help construct a non-denominational chapel in Houston, Texas. So the chapel contains 14 Rothko murals that cover the walls, and Rothko worked closely with the architect and was actually given almost full control in terms of the shape of the building and the colors he used. So you can see he used these kind of dark purplish tones that represent Rothko's melancholic last few years of his life and give the building kind of a meditative, intimate tone. In the year 2000, the Rothko Chapel was placed on the National Register of Historic Places. So this painting is actually untitled, but it's part of Rothko's last series of paintings titled the Black Series in 1969. And these paintings kind of confirmed and reflected the pain that Rothko was feeling about people's perception of his art. In 1968, a year before, Rothko suffered an aortic aneurysm and spent 3 weeks in the hospital. And this brush with death would shadow him for the rest of his life. He really became resentful that his work was not being paid the proper respect and reverence and attention that he felt it deserved. And the Guggenheim states that this painting is, quote, drained of color and choked by a white border, and indicate that, as Rothko asserted, his paintings are about death. And later that year, Rothko unfortunately committed suicide. So overall, Rothko really distanced himself from the classification of his work as these kind of non-objective, color-filled paintings. And he really stressed that his paintings were based on human emotions of tragedy and ecstasy and doom and all of these things. As I mentioned before, he really wanted the viewer to stand in front of the painting and just be enveloped by color and have whatever reaction that makes the viewer have. And so I will just end with this quote. To stand in front of a Rothko is to be in the presence of the pulsing vibrancy of his enormous canvases. It is to feel, if only momentarily, something of the sublime spirituality he relentlessly sought to evoke. Thank you.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's incredible. He's an incredible artist. Absolutely. In fact, and I think he was a gig worker and a knowledge worker, if you think about it, if you really think about
Right,
it.
right. And not only that, but principled, all of that.
Yeah,
and indeed. And so, and he obviously had a unique brand. I mean, he was so self-aware about who he was and what he wanted to do with his art. So absolutely incredible.
Yep.
I love that, thinking about the artists that we portray as gig workers, because that is exactly what it is, I think, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Well, if you haven't noticed, we're back here in the SMA studios. I kind of feel like it's a little bit like Survivor. We've come out of the field now, and we're actually in the studio.
We should introduce Vivek Sharma, who's our chief engineer, software designer on Todd. Vivek, welcome.
Thanks.
And it's a special day. We're celebrating the 4th birthday of our Talent on Demand system. And in fact, we've got a little bit of fun planned for this.
Okay.
I think, AJ, we work hard. That we put in a lot, weekends, a lot of hours, but we play hard too. And I think we're going to see some of that as a part of this.
All right.
Yeah.
Recently, we had a lot of late nighters.
Yeah, that's for sure. And sometimes not as planned as we would have liked. But you know what? I got to tell you, you'll see this in the video. We've got an incredible team.
And if I could just say one comment on that, I think to the testament of our entire firm, Vivek and the development team, this has been a process of discovery. I mean, if we had taken a traditional approach to software development where we sat and spent 2 years developing very defined specifications, we still wouldn't be off of the ground level, I think.
Yeah, we'd still be waiting to release the talent portal, I think.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but I think, you know, a lot of that also has to do with the passion of the team for what they're doing. I mean, for everybody, and it's been incredible. So, you know, with that, we've planned a little bit of special fun, and I'd like to go ahead and share that with everybody.
I hear that. Hey guys, how you doing? I'm so glad to have been invited back here. I hear that there is a special computer software of yours that is having a birthday, and I actually baked a cake for him. There we go. There's my cake. There's tons of cake. Yeah, if you guys want to join me in saying happy birthday, Todd. Congratulations on 4 years, and hopefully many more to come. Happy birthday.
It's a great balloon.
Happy birthday, Don.
Happy birthday, Todd. Oh, that brought back such great memories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, indeed. I just want to say a huge thank you and congratulations to Vivek and our staff here at Irvine that's been supporting the Todd development, and especially our incredible and fun-loving and hardworking staff in India.
Absolutely. Yeah, we couldn't have done it without him. And I'll tell you, it's been a labor of love. You know, it's been an incredible journey. We've had a lot of fun doing it, and we've accomplished things that I think at times we said, now how are we going to get this one done? You know, I'm sure there's been conversations that, you know, when we hang up the phone and they're looking at each other and going, okay, what, you know, AJ and Jacque are asking for what?
Yeah, everything is possible in software development. It's just we need patience and a little bit of compromises.
That's right.
That's it.
And persistence.
And persistence, absolutely.
Yeah.
Persistence prevails.
Yeah. Oh, that was great. I love that video. That was incredible. It did bring a lot of memories back.
And I got to give a shout out to Tom and Greg,
Yeah.
who helped put this together, and the everybody who contributed pictures and whatnot and videos.
What do you think of that SMA band?
That's been fun.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So we do have one more segment before we close off and say our goodbyes. But I think we have a few folks. If you want to ask any questions, Bernie, you've actually had the chance to kind of really get into the under the hood around how we think about Todd, and I want to make sure you had a chance to kind of see that we also have a little bit of fun. Bernie, do you have any questions for us around what you just saw?
So for everybody's benefit, I just finished a case study on Todd that will be in the IMD case study series probably in another couple weeks or so. So I if you reach out to me or reach out to AJ, happy to send you it as a teaching vehicle. The key in terms of Todd is the case called something like reinvention of professional services, because it really is the future of professional services. And we've taught it with AJ and Jacque for a major law firm. That's a consortium of law firms that are reconfiguring their industry. But you guys are way ahead. That's the real interesting message here. So my view is it's a great vehicle to talk about Drucker's concepts around reinvention of an industry, abandoning the past, looking for opportunities of the future, investing in the future as opposed to investing in the past business model. So I think you're a great case study. And for those that want to sit in on the next time I teach it at the Drucker School, I'm happy to have other people sit in to participate. But it's been a great learning vehicle is probably the way to frame it. And so
Well, thank you.
The Todd evangelist out there.
Well, thank you for saying all those great things, Bernie, and your interest in us, obviously. And I think if we had just kind of totally taken a traditional approach to how we did this, we really would not have gotten as far as we have, because this really truly has been a process of discovery, just really underpinned by a handful of core principles.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we've had people all over the world working on this. We started with work in the Philippines, and then here in the U.S. and certainly in India. It's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been
And our team in India, trust us, they really do know how to have fun.
Yes, they do.
You saw, I think, some images of a cricket game that we were all got ourselves into.
Yeah, I think someone may even be on the phone with us today. So if you are, thank you guys. It's been incredible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. We can leave time for questions at the end. We have now next, it's time for trivia.
So
get 4 prizes, right?
Yeah. So get out a sheet of paper and a pen or pencil.
Please don't write the answers in the chat window, because I just want to be fair.
Yeah, and we're going to ask the questions first, then we're going to give the answers.
All right. We'll give everyone a second to get out a sheet of paper and a writing implement. All right. Question 1 is about our artist of the day. And I don't think Sarah had a chance to cover this particular piece of commissioned art, but it's quite famous. Rothko was commissioned to paint a series of paintings for the Seagram buildings. The Seagram is the massive distillers and the distributors of alcohol. They had a really unique architectural gem of a building in New York City. It's in a Four Seasons restaurant. And so the question is, why did he plan to use dark colors? All right, so we'll give you guys a second to think about that question and jot it down.
Ready for the next one?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what happened to those Rothko murals?
You mean in the Four Seasons that he was commissioned
Exactly.
to? Okay. This is an interesting story, actually. All right, question 3. Now this, everyone should get this. What was Rothko's favorite color? And if you come close, it's good enough. Go ahead.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So according to a 2018 Gallup survey, what percentage of U.S. workers join the gig economy as their primary or secondary job?
I was surprised when I saw this answer.
Yeah.
Okay, and there, if you're close, it's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, question 5. Oh, all right. What is the origin of the term gig worker? You want to give everyone a hint?
I guess I would say, think of the SMA band.
Okay, good. Good. Go ahead, Jacque. Next
Okay,
question.
yeah. So what percentage does your profile need to be complete for you to self-nominate or be considered for project positions?
For those of you that are in Todd and been with us for a while, you'll know that answer.
Absolutely.
And we'll let Vivek ask the last question here.
When was Todd first released?
All right. Hint. This is the fourth birthday. Okay. Again, if you come close, it's good enough.
Yep. Yep.
All right, let's give everyone a second to make sure they've finished with their answers, and
Yep.
we can now reveal the the answers to the questions, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we'll just do our own questions, I guess.
Yep.
So question one was about the commissioned murals that he did in the Four Seasons restaurant in the Seagram's building. So, all right, this is Rothko with his unique brand. He used dark colors because he actually wanted to sicken, get this, sicken the restaurant's opulent patrons.
That's hysterical.
Yeah, it is.
I bet you got some heat for that one.
Oh, yes.
All right. So the question is, what happened to those Rothko murals? The answer is the commission was returned. Also, the paintings were stored, but eventually donated to the Tate Museum in London. You can see them there.
Yeah. So I think he basically got disgusted, right, with the idea that the paintings would be decorative objects for the wealthy diners there.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and not for everybody to see.
Yeah. So I think you said he returned the commission, and they ended up at a museum somewhere, right?
Yeah. In fact, Rothko. Well, you mentioned this. Rothko got disgusted with
Right.
this, and it was incredible. That he actually deliberately, went about doing
Look at
that.
that. So they're at the Tate Modern, if you want to
Yeah.
see, but you have to take a trip to London to see that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Now red. Now, if you really want to know the specific pigment of red, it's lithol red. So,
Not Corvette red.
not Corvette red. Yeah. The post-war abstract artist Rothko donated the plum and crimson colored murals to Harvard University in '63. But they quickly faded into Sundress Room, where Rothko insisted that they would be installed, right? And so red was his favorite color, and I got splattered with some of the red at that play about Rothko. All right, next question.
Yeah. So, the Gallup poll question from 2018 is what percentage of U.S. workers join the gig economy either through primary or secondary jobs is actually 36%. That's a huge number.
Wow, and that was in
2018.
2018.
Yeah, that's 3 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
Right? Yeah.
Right. All right, the origin of the term gig worker. Jacque, why don't you give the answer to this?
Yeah, so it actually came out of New Orleans jazz musicians is where that started.
So they talked to themselves about, oh, we got a gig tonight?
We got a gig tonight.
All
In
right.
the 20s. Or actually even before that, I think it was in 1915.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, I mean, ever since day one of SMA in 1982, we referred to our projects as gigs.
We did, and there was a short period of time when people said, stop calling them that, and you can't. You just can't.
You can't stop something like that.
No, not at all.
No, nor stop anyone from calling headquarters here as International Galactic Headquarters.
Yep, exactly.
Or Interstellar. It was Interstellar.
Intergalactic.
Intergalactic. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, the percentage of profile that you need to get it to, and it's not that hard actually, so that you can actually self-nominate yourself on projects as well as be considered by our account managers and clients is 80%. Just 80%. It's not hard to get there.
Yep.
How many users do we have in Todd today, Jacque?
Well, today we have 6,917 users in the system.
Cool.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Cool. All right. And keep in mind, we're not trying to be an Upwork or Calent and any of those other open market exchanges. This is what we consider to be a walled garden of talent. So,
That's right.
So even with that concept, I think having 7,000 users in the system is quite impressive.
It is indeed.
Yeah. And when was Todd first released? It was a famous romantic holiday, right? February 14th. What year? 2017.
Right.
All right, so let's take a few minutes. People can just add up how many right answers you had, right? And there will be prizes. So let's ask if Maureen and Susanna can help kind of scroll through the screen so we can capture everybody. So I'm going to start midway since there are 8 questions. If you had 4 questions or more correct, raise your hand. 4 questions or more correct, raise your hand.
Not everyone has their screens on, but I don't see any hands.
Oh, no. Oh, does someone wave? Nope. Okay, let's go down to 3 then. All right.
Or if you don't have your camera on, please let us know in chat that you had something.
Okay, let's go down 1. We'll start at 3. How many of you have had 3 or more questions correct? Keep your hand up.
I see Dick. Dick's got his hand up.
3 or more?
It might only be Dick.
Bernie, do you have your hand up? Okay. My goodness, only Dick? All
I
right.
see somebody in chat saying that they got all of them.
Whoa.
There you go.
Okay, so we're going to jump from 3 to all 8.
Wow.
All right.
That's a first, I think.
That is a first.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we give a prize to not only the person who did 3, but also the person who got all 8.
So what are we giving away, AJ?
I actually don't know. What are we giving away?
Well, you know what we're giving away, and you can actually see a preview of it here. Is these birthday celebration shirts from Todd.
Cool.
For Todd. Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
All right.
Oh, that is so cool.
Well, these are nice shirts, nice logos. Happy birthday to Todd.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know if you've been reading the chat, but everybody's wondering, where do we get this gear from? And, where's the merchandise shop for SMNA?
It's actually on our public website.
Okay, so how are we going to communicate this?
Well, you know what we can do is we can send out an email blast to everybody.
Okay, why don't we, everyone who registered, we'll send an email blast on
Yep.
how you can get your own shirt, Todd
Yep.
birthday shirt.
Yep.
That'd be fantastic. Good
Yep.
idea. Okay, good.
Yep.
Good. Okay. All right, what is happening next week? Next week's town hall. We are presenting, I get to carry this. Okay, great. We are presenting the artist. We're going back to kind of more traditional artist, Degas, right? The artist and sculpture, Degas. And that will be an interesting art talk by Sarah. And I think we also have some fun plans for next week. And let's close off this session. Thank you for joining, everyone. First of all, it was a great discussion on gig work, and we just had some fun here. So.
And we thought we'd put Todd in lights
Let's
since,
do that.
since it's his 4th birthday.
Okay. Hey, thanks everyone. And we can blow our horns.
Yes.
Hey, AJ.
Yes. There we go. Yes.
I think it's backwards.
You think it's
Yeah, I got the
backwards?
D. You got to flip the D around, I think.
Nope. I
No,
think
no,
the
no.
whole thing's backwards.
Oh my
It
goodness.
shows backwards. Yeah.
I'll get to keep you up. Thank you.
There you go. There you go.
All right. All right.
See, we started with a dot and it grew to be Todd.
Yeah. And so next week, if you want to have the Three Stooges come back into your life, just tune in.
And we are going to have a little bit of Todd birthday cake.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I wish we could share this with everybody,
We do.
all of you out there. So have a little bit of sweet in your day today, please. All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.